All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our lesson for February 12th, 2018. We're going to start our next unit today, talking about imperialism. So today we're going to talk about the beginning of imperialism. Our objectives and standards to define imperialism and explain European interests, and take a moment there to read over the standards if you would. And our desired result: how did imperialism begin in Africa? Excuse me. And one vocab word here: imperialism. So think about what that word might mean and how it applies to this lesson. So prior to imperialism, the African people were divided into many different groups across the continent of Africa. Now, the size of these groups could be very large or they could be extremely small. African people had been successful at keeping Europeans away for hundreds of years. One of the main reasons for this is Europeans were not able to reach deeper sections of Africa due to rivers, so they didn't have the technology such as the boats or the other technologies needed to get inside these rivers and things like that. But the Industrial Revolution changed how Europeans could access Africa. So, for example, steamboats. Steamboats will allow for easier travel into difficult regions of Africa. Now, the first Europeans to visit these new areas were mostly explorers, missionaries, and humanitarians who were opposed to the slave trade. Gradually, though, stories of excitement from the African continent from these missionaries or other explorers intrigued people around the world. And one of these who it really intrigued was King Leopold II of Belgium. And he's going to look for territory in the Congo. He claims that he wants to abolish slavery and promote Christianity in the region, but in reality, he has companies that actually enslaved Africans do work, and they also use brutal tactics to keep them as well. So the Europeans expand. The seizure of the Congo by Belgium frightened many other European nations. They're obviously afraid and fearful that maybe Belgium will become too powerful militarily and economically by doing this. So in 1882, France had signed a treaty for the northern section of the Congo River, and other European countries are going to look to expand into the African continent as well, for different reasons. So the move towards imperialism. More and more European countries began to expand into Africa by the 1880s. Now, the discovery of diamonds and gold also led to more expansion. And no European country is going to be left behind, obviously, in this search for resources, especially gold and silver and things like that. Competition between these nations became very furious, and the outbreak of war was very close at hand. So what these European nations are going to do, they're going to set up something called the Berlin Conference. So to avoid a war, 14 European countries met between 1884 to 1885 to lay down divisions for the continent of Africa, and this was known as the Berlin Conference. Now, they agreed that any European country could claim land in Africa if they gave notification to other countries and could control the area. In other words, keep control of it, keep the native groups down, the African groups in line, and things like that. And of course, just like we kind of talked about with the Congress of Vienna, they tended to leave out the important players, so no African groups were even invited to this discussion. So here's a map of Africa, as you can see here, of how they were divided up. The yellow being Belgium, the pink being British, green is France, the teal colored, light blue color there is Germany, the purple color is Italian, The dark purple color is Portuguese, and then the orangish color is Spanish. You might see two areas which are limited, which are gray. Liberia was an independent country and will remain an independent country. It actually had been established by the United States already as a place for free slaves and things like that. And then Ethiopia over here. Well, we'll talk more about Ethiopia because European countries will try to take over Ethiopia, but will be unsuccessful at doing so. And these will change here and there. And many of these countries, their names are obviously not British East Africa anymore. Now it's known as Kenya. But you'll see that this hopefully try to solve the problem of these countries going to war. So our closure for today, how did imperialism begin in Africa? So I'd like you to think about, some of the reasons that European countries were looking to expand. What were they looking for? What were they hoping to find? And then also think about the Berlin Conference. What was the purpose of it? To obviously avoid a war, but it obviously divided up the African continent without the Africans' permission, and is going to lead to many, many years of rule by European countries in the African continent. So think about that. All right. So I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I will hopefully talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.